Good morning, I'm Rosie Rushing, and today I'm going to teach you the basics of the cello. In the string family, the cello is right in the middle in terms of pitch. From highest to lowest you have violin, viola, cello, bass, and double bass. The cello can play high notes and sound like a viola. It can also play low notes and sound like a bass. It can play the low, booming, majestic notes or the soft, sweet melodies. This instrument sounds beautiful and is also visually appealing. The wood is always well polished and the sound matches the appearance. The cello is alluring because there are not a ton of people who play it. I'll begin by listing the basic materials needed to learn the essentials of the cello. First, you need your cello case with the cello inside. Second, you need your sandpaper, your rosin, and the bow, which is also inside the cello case. First, take the cello out of the cello case. Next, take the Velcro off the neck of the cello. So first, what I'm going to do is tell you about the cello. This is the tailpiece. The tailpiece holds the strings in place as well as connects to the tail spike of the cello. Next, we have the strings going from C, G, D to A. Here we have the bridge. The bridge is located right in the middle of the F holes at the little notches. So when setting up this cello, I had to make sure that the bridge was exactly in between the two F holes. This is called the front, this the back, and these are the ribs of the cello. Here we have the fingerboard, the scroll, and the pegs that hold the strings in place. Next, we're going to adjust the tailpiece. I like to have the cello on my lap just to ensure that it doesn't fall off. The tailpiece is here at the bottom. Unscrew the screw that holds the tailpiece and pull the tailpiece out until you think that it's about the right height. You'll know when the tailpiece is the right height when you put it between your legs like this and the fingerboard is to the left on your left shoulder, and when it's comfortably resting right here, it's the bottom part of the rib is going to just cover your left knee. So here's my knee and here's where the cello falls, just right. So the cello is placed on the left shoulder so that you can play the notes with your left hand and bow with your. The next essential step is to get the bow. Here's the bow. The first part to adjusting your bow would be to tighten the horsehair on your bow. So you want to take this little screw in the bottom, I don't know if you can see it. You want to take the little screw in the bottom and twist clockwise. And until the strings are pretty tight. And you know that they're going to be tight when obviously they feel tight to the touch, but there's also a slight curve to the bow as well, as you can see here. It's just slightly curving. The next step to preparing your bow is rosin. Here's the rosin. Inside this case, this is kind of a fancier rosin. Usually they come in little circles and you can just rub it on. This rosin is stickier than violin rosin because the bigger the instrument gets, the stickier the rosin has to be. The interesting thing about rosin is that when you apply it to the hairs on the bow, it actually creates quite a bit of friction between the bow and the strings. So when you pull the bow across it, the hairs actually individually pull the strings, which is interesting. A lot of people don't use sandpaper, but I like to use sandpaper just to make sure that I'm getting a consistent amount on my bow. So you just scrape a little bit off. And then you apply it to your bow by simply pulling your bow across it almost. ways they like, how much rosin they like to use. I always like to use a lot, but you can use a little and have a softer sound. Pretty much the part holding the bow. So everyone thinks holding the bow is pretty easy. You know, you just grab it and you play, but that's not true. You actually have to make sure that you put your thumb on this part right here on the bow. Put your thumb right there and then turn the bow around in your hand. So you have your thumb on the bottom here. And then you take your two middle fingers and you cup them over like that, so that they're pressing down on here, but your thumb is still curved. You always want to have your thumb curved. Then you take your pinky and you place it down sort of on the screw, and your first finger goes down on this pad right here. A lot of people call it the bunny way of holding a bow because it kind of looks like a bunny. And so then you want to place the cello so that the pegs aren't too close to your shoulder, but that the fingerboard can like rest on your shoulder. And also, when you're playing the cello, it should be angled down from you. It shouldn't be straight up next to you, just angled a little bit to make it an easier way of playing. And then you bring your bow across the strings and you play. Thank you for watching the basics about the cello.